Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Post Race Conversations Live. I'm Kyle Benjamin from the Tennessee headquarters of FrontStretch.com. Brian Nolan, though, is live from Chicago and the Chicago Street Course, where it is currently sort of kind of maybe weathering a little bit outside. They got this race in right under the gun, it looks like.
Yeah. First off, thanks for having me on, man. Yeah, there's big signs all over saying there's a storm that has arrived. Please seek shelter immediately, or else I would have been out in the front stretch or on pit road talking with you. But unfortunately, I'm in a parking garage where the media was at this weekend. So fantastic accommodations. Am I right?
Living the dream for sure. Well, it wouldn't be a Chicago street race without weather. Thankfully, this is the first time NASCAR's been on a street course, and the race hasn't been impacted by rain. Of course, I think the outcome is what just about everybody predicted this time around, and Shane Van Gisbergen puts on another driving clinic.
Yeah. There's sometimes in racing where the best car doesn't win or the best driver doesn't win. The best driver won yesterday, the best driver won today, and that was amazing. I mean, there's a reason why he came over here, and that was to win road course races, and he's done that twice this year, and he's locked himself into the playoffs. And he's got another one coming up next week, so he could be going 3 for 4, with Coda being the only exception.
Yeah, SVG winning 2 out of the last 4 races, and could win, 3 out of the most recent 5. And that is exactly why, Justin Marks and the folks at Trackhouse put him in that race car. The money that you can make as a race team by having a car in the playoffs is huge. We saw what happened with the Wood brothers last year and Harrison Burton. That basically changed the outcome of their season. The jump, it's millions of dollars. So SVG absolutely making it worthwhile for everybody. Looking at the rundown, the top 10, a little bit of a surprise. 2 drivers stand out. Austin Hill, in the one-off RCR car, P9. He's actually a fairly decent road racer, but this is his 4th or 5th Cup start to top 10 finish there. And then Denny Hamlin, noted road racer. Denny Hamlin coming home 4th. I think he's probably quite surprised with that finish, considering where he started the day.
Yeah, it was a bad weekend for 2311 to start. Corey Heim in a fourth 2311 car fails to qualify after he had some tow link issues that forced him to go fairly slow. So that was unfortunate for him. And then even before that, Denny Hamlin spun after blowing his engine literally right at the start of practice. So he basically had no laps on this dry condition. So for him to come all the way back from the back of the pack to finish 4th, fairly good day for him.
Kyle Busch comes home 5th today. Not probably not a season turnaround moment for him, but certainly something to be happy about for the 8 squad after a season that has been mostly forgettable.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to Kyle, but I did talk to his tricky friend Burdett, and he said that they were just getting better and better throughout the race, and it showed with finally a decent result. Will that translate to Sonoma? He says maybe a little bit, but I mean, it's so different when you're going from the street circuit all the way to a national road course. So, I mean, it's going to be a little bit different for him coming up in wine country next Sunday, but this is definitely what this 18 needed after a couple of DNFs, just not running well, getting involved in other people's incidents. This is what the 18 needed, and to come away with the top 5 is a fairly good day.
And at this point in the season, anything you can do to have a good points day? I know that's a storyline and a topic of conversation that some folks in the industry want you to stay away from, with the emphasis on winning. But when so many drivers have won, I think there have been 13 or 14 winners this season. There aren't many spots left in the playoffs, and Busch is very close to that cut line. So the more good days he can have, the better it positions him to try to make a playoff run as the season winds down. Disappointing day for a few drivers. William Byron ran like 3 laps before they had an issue. It sounded like he had a clutch or transmission problem. Byron DNFs. And then Michael McDowell, who led 34 laps to start the race, has a throttle linkage issue. and finished the race a few laps down. But the 71 looked like they were the team in the car to beat uh, until he ran into that issue in the first stage.
Yeah, first let's go to Byron. It was a disaster of a weekend for him. I mean, he hit the wall in practice, didn't go out to qualify. He was very, very frustrated with himself. It was like an hour after the Xfinity race. I was looking, and they were still working on the number 24 car. Like an hour after the Xfinity race, it was like 8 p.m. And then the green flag was waved in the clutch. He had clutch issues, and unfortunately, it was for terminal. For Michael McDowell, I truly think he's going to beat SVG. I'm not going to lie. Like I really thought he had the car, but a throttle cable broke, and he would have gone 10 laps down. So they just went to the BVP area, ended up, I think, 22 laps down. So unfortunate for him, but I truly thought like he told me, it was going to be a two-man show between 71 and the 88. So unfortunately, it just doesn't come to fruition.
We did get robbed a little bit, I think, of a good battle between those two guys. Excellent road racers in their own right. SCG, obviously a world-class supercar guy. Michael McDowell, a ton of road racing experience in his background. Got to give a tip of the cap to Ty Gibbs, who after, having some struggles early in the season, again, kind of trying to right the ship here in the latter half of the regular season, comes home second. Alex Bowman put on a fun little race there towards the end. His dust up with Bubba Wallace and their Chicago debacle continues. And Ryan Preece, another quality outing from the 60 team. So, interesting, kind of an interesting running order looking at things and how it kind of played out. Certainly didn't get the chaos this race that we've gotten the last 2 years in Chicago, but a lot of action. Drivers who were good and who are talented racers got to the front of the field. But again, what are you going to do with a guy like SVG? He's either got to have a problem or you've got to have a flawless day. And towards the end of the race, I don't know how much of the broadcast you were able to watch from the track, but Steve Letarte was commenting on Tyler Reddick's speed on fresh tires, thinking, oh, he's going to catch him, he's going to get him with 4 laps to go. And I'm thinking, all right, Steve knows way more about racing and strategy than I do because I've never been a Cup crew chief. But I also know that catching him in 4 laps and passing him are 2 totally different things.
Yeah, when he came into pit, I think, what was it, 13 laps to go? It was obviously because he couldn't make it on field. He was going to run out. So I think that was it. They had to. They put on fresh tires, and tires really didn't make a big deal until for some reason the end of the race. And so with that being said, he was coming, and then you see Cody Ware in the tire barrier. And for some weird reason, NASCAR waited 45 seconds for them to caution. I'll put the conspiracy tinfoil cap on it and say they wanted to wave the white flag because they knew weather and lightning were coming, and thus they didn't want to have multiple chaos, green, white, checkered overtimes. Because right when the race was over, they had the severe thunderstorm warning on the Jumbotron, so they knew it was coming. So they may have been delayed a little bit, whether they admit it or not. I don't think they ever will, but just something. Put your conspiracy hats on. But yeah, he was fast. He was gaining about a second a lap, but like you said, it's one thing to catch him, it's another thing to pass him. Well, it looks like, folks, that Kyle is not with us anymore. I'm not sure what happened, but that is it for this edition of PRC. Coming up on the Front Stretch YouTube channel, we got NASCAR Mailbox with Kevin Nix, as well as all of our podcast happy hour every Tuesday, as well as Bringing the Heat with Trey Lau coming up every Wednesday. And then you got Through the Gears coming up on Fridays with Mr. Wyatt Watts. For myself and Kyle Benjamin, I don't know where he went. I am Brian Olin. Thank you so much for joining us. So we'll talk with you later next time here on PRC.
Well, it looks like we're back. Sorry about that, race fans. Those things happen sometimes in broadcasting. We had a bit of a technical snafu here with our live studio, but thank you all for sticking around and watching. We had Brian Nolan with us, who was at the track, breaking everything down coverage-wise for the front stretch crew at the Chicago Street Race. If you're just joining us, SVG wins in dominating fashion. He's going for 2 in a row next week at Sonoma. The NASCAR in-season challenge, want to talk about that real quick as we wrap things up. Looks like it's going to be Ty Dillon going up against Alex Bowman next week, and Eric Jones head-to-head with John Hunter Nemechek on one side of the bracket, just like we all predicted. And then it'll be Ryan Preece against Tyler Reddick and Ty Gibbs against, I think, Zane Smith. Zane Smith, who came home P14 today, narrowly edging Chris Butcher. So nobody's bracket is intact at this point, but I believe that Tyler Reddick may be the strongest out of those to come home with the $1 million prize for the NASCAR in-season challenge. The race did end, as Brian was mentioning, with a little bit of controversy there at the end. NASCAR holding the yellow flag on the final lap, or with 2 to go, should say. Cody Ware was firewall deep in the tires, but weather was approaching, and so NASCAR probably making the right call there to end the race when they could, rather than trying to green-white checkers. Would like to see a little more consistency out of race control. Not the first time this year they've held yellows or thrown them too soon. Honestly, they really need to be just better at having a standard procedure in place. If a car's that deep in the tires, you need either cameras at every corner so they can see what happened, or officials in every corner so they can make a call like every other road racing series on the planet has. No excuse really for a caution to be held for 45 seconds while a car is that far in the tires, especially when the excuse every other time is driver safety. Soapbox over. So as the Cup Series and NASCAR heads off to Sonoma next week, running out of time for some drivers to find a win to get into the playoffs. Only a few weeks left in the regular season at this point. SVG is in, and he's done exactly what he needed to do in that Trackhouse car. That's why he was hired. So don't hate the player, hate the game at this point. That'll do it for us here on Post-Race Conversations Live following the Chicago Street Race. For everything NASCAR and frontstretch.com, check us out on the web. We've got coverage from Chicago. We've got coverage from Mid-Ohio, where Scott Dixon did Scott Dixon-esque things today after a rare Alex Palou self-inflicted error. Dixon picks up his win for the 21st consecutive season in his illustrious 23-year career. That'll do it for us. This edition of Post Race Conversation Live has been brought to you by My Place Hotel. My Place is the official hotel partner of Front Stretch. You can use code FrontStretch for 10% off your next stay at My Place. That'll do it for us here on Post Race Conversations. For Brian Nolan, who is no longer with us because of an internet issue at the track, I'm Kyle Benjamin. We'll talk to you after Sonoma. See you next week.
My Place Hotels is proud to be the official hotel partner of Front Stretch. With plush beds, in-room kitchens, and pet-friendly hotels, My Place makes for the perfect pit stop when traveling. Front Stretch fans can use promo code FRONTSTRETCH to save 10% on your stay at any of our nationwide properties. Sign up for our Stay Rewarded program to get even more savings. With My Place Hotels, don't just stay, stay rewarded.